The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel are Thomas Sanjurjo. Hey, Thomas.
Hey, Dom.
And Victor Lams. Hey, Victor.
Hey, Dom.
First off, just Jack would normally be here tonight, but Jack has had an addition to the family, and so congratulations to Jack and his family.
Yeah, congrats.
So he's getting some, I'd say, much-deserved time off to rest, but that's not happening because the three of us are all dads. We know exactly what's going on right now. You're not getting much rest at all. We do want to start out with some feedback from our last episode. Last time, I was talking with Pat Scott and with Father Andrew Kinstetter. We talked about Windows 11 end of life coming up in October. Microsoft is going to end of EOL, the operating system, and we got some feedback. Edward Clayton Rowe wrote us on Facebook. He says you can dual boot a Linux distro to prepare for the day. My all-in-one desktop started life as a Windows 7 unit. Linux Lite doesn't take up as much memory as the Chrome OS, but runs like a dream. I think he's responding to Pat was mentioning, like, you could install Chrome Flex on pretty much anything these days, anything that can run, that's running still, or you could put a Linux distro on it, including one that looks a lot like Windows. I know both of you like that idea.
Yeah, and that's 100%. Windows 10 end of life.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's Windows 10 end of life in favor of Windows 11.
Heart attack here. Yeah.
Sorry. I know, just freaked everybody out. Yeah. I think he'd written 11, or maybe I just wrote 11. Yeah. So that's another, a nice idea is actually if you think you're going to go that route to put another operating system on the same hardware because you don't want to go out and buy a new computer with Windows on it, you can install Linux or Chrome OS even. I think you can dual boot. Can you dual boot Chrome OS?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a little bit more complicated, but yeah, you can definitely do it.
So you could do that, and then that way you can start getting prepared for the day when you're not going to be running Windows. You can start getting your environment set up, and make sure your documents open up in the new software and all that sort of stuff. So that is
highly recommend Linux. It's a great opportunity and a great motivation to move over and try it.
That's right. Everyone should try it. Put it on a thumb drive. Give it a try.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thanks, Edward. We appreciate the feedback. Let's get into today's main topic. So what inspired this topic? In July, Thomas and I were part of a group of pilgrims from StarQuest who went to Italy for 12 days, thereabouts, if you include the days we traveled. And as we all know, Italy is the land of wonderful coffee everywhere. And Thomas, you had the idea of we should talk about the tech for coffee.
Absolutely. Being over there, it was great because you would walk into a coffee shop, you'd order coffee, and they would always assume you wanted an Americano because you're an American. And you had to tell them specifically, no, I don't want too much water in my coffee. Give me a real coffee. And they would brew espressos. Like almost every shop you went into had an espresso machine in it of some kind or another. And so we got to talking on the bus, and I was like, we should really. I know that both Dom and I were kind of thinking when we get home, we need to figure out how to get an espresso machine in our house. But then, beyond that, the other tech that we use to make coffee and brew coffee at home.
Right. I mean, this really started as a way to, some way to convince our wives to let us buy espresso machines. It's for the podcast. And I just, to reiterate, when the show's called The Secrets of Technology, it's not all high technology. I mean, there are some high tech devices we're going to be talking about, but technology covers the gamut, low tech, high tech. And so on this show, we like to cover all kinds of tech. And so we're going to talk about coffee tech. And I've been a coffee nerd for a long time. I've loved coffee of all kinds. I drink bad coffee, good coffee. That's the sort of thing I like. So let's get into it. There's certain gear, certain things when you really want to get into, making good coffee that you're going to need. And one of the first things that you're going to figure out is if you want to make good coffee, you need to start with whole beans. Fresh beans, whole beans, freshly roasted. We're not going to talk about roasting your own beans on this podcast. That's maybe a little beyond what we're trying to do, but I do know people who actually do roast their own beans. But let's assume you've found a good source for whole beans, fresh, maybe a local roaster, local coffee shop or something like that. And you have, or Mystic Monk Coffee, which is an abbey, a Catholic monastery that roasts and sells their beans as a way of supporting the abbey and their prayer life. So I recommend Mystic Monk. I get my coffee from them a lot. But what you're going to do, you're going to need some way to grind those beans. And there's basically 3 kinds of grinders.
Well, 2 kinds of grinders and a chopper.
Right.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, Victor, why don't you tell us about what you know about the grinders and the chopper?
Yeah. So when brewing a cup of coffee, at least for drip coffee, which is what I'm most familiar with, you want to, grind the beans into consistently sized particles that, are more or less uniform in shape and have consistent, surface area and all that. And so for that, you really need something that actually grinds like a mill. And so there are 2 types of grinders. One is electric, one is not, depending on, if you have 45 minutes to grind your coffee in the morning.
Yes.
Maybe not that long. But the kind that most people will want is an electric burr grinder. And it uses a metal burr against a metal plate to basically, as the beans, through gravity are fed into the, grinding mechanism, grind the coffee into different size. You can usually select the particle size you want, which is determined by the distance from the burr to the plate, and then it just kind of grinds it like a mill would, and voila, after a few seconds you have enough coffee to brew a pot of coffee. And so that's what I do first thing in the morning to wake up the house, is I run the burr grinder. I run the burr grinder and it grinds up the coffee, and then I just dump it into the basket, and you're off to the coffee races there. Burr grinder, and then the other kind of grinder is a hand grinder, which is the same thing, except instead of an electric motor, you're using your hand, which when you consider it takes, I don't know, several thousand, 100 or 1,000 revolutions to grind enough coffee to get a pot of coffee. You definitely will. There's the old fashioned kinds they're huge and have the big handles, and those are nice, but the ones you can buy now that are reasonably priced and high performing are smaller, and so there's a lot of cranking action going on there.
I've got one of the Rhino coffee grinders, and it's really good. It takes, I would say, for a personal pot, so 2 cups of coffee, it takes about as long as it takes to boil the water to grind that many coffee grounds, and that's about all it's going to take at one time. So you can stuff that many whole beans in the top, and then spend the time while the water's heating up to grind it, and then by the end of the water heating, you've got your ground coffee. And if you're doing an AeroPress, it's actually like perfect time. Like you can organize the whole thing into that effort. Now, that being said, your arm is going to be tired by the
This
time
is a workout.
It is. It will wake you up without the caffeine. That's for sure.
There's something nice, just to kind of step back for a sec, in the ritual of making coffee. There's a sort of rite of it, if you will, that when to make a cup of coffee, there's and this can be part of it, the grinding of the beans yourself. I mean, honestly, in the morning, I just need a cup of coffee to get going. Some days you just need a cup of coffee. But there is something about like the putting the things together and making the coffee and the steps that it takes. There's something, there's something Zen about it, or just something meditative about doing that. So I could see the appeal. I've tried. I bought a hand grinder, used it once, and and I said, this is way more work than just hitting the button on my burr grinder, and we'll have links to a couple different ones. There's I have the Baratza Encore coffee grinder. That one goes for, actually, no, I don't have the Baratza. I have a different one that's not made anymore. But the Baratza is it's on a bunch of lists for best coffee grinder, home coffee grinder. It's about $150 though. That's, you're investing in coffee at this point when you're getting something like that. It's not cheap. OXO makes a burr grinder for about $90, which it'll be serviceable for most people. And, this coffee stuff, start less expensive and build your way up. I mean, don't start cheap. You're going to get what you pay for with a lot of these things. If you a coffee grinder under $20 is going to be not great for, especially you're not going to find a burr grinder that for that little.
And really think about what you're doing with coffee too, because you don't need a burr grinder if you're not going to be making espresso. In all honesty, it's going to give you a very consistent grind. But one of our other options that we have here is a blade grinder, and we've mentioned this before on the show. It's the Krups Precision Electric. It's a spice grinder technically,
right?
But in all honesty, that's what I use day in day out for our drip coffee maker. I just grind the grounds in there. I put the whole beans in. It'll carry up to 7 cups worth, or 14 cups worth of grounds. So it's, that to make that many cups of coffee, you can put that many grounds in here all at once. And it's really easy to use. You just kind of stick the button down and wait. And you'll get used to the sound it makes. And it goes and goes and goes. And eventually it changes tone. Like right when the coffee gets to the right grind, it will change tone from like a higher pitch tone to a lower pitch tone. That's a moment to stop and then toss it in the pot and it's ready to go.
Yeah. I mean, I used a blade grinder for ages. I wanted to get something that would make, when I got an AeroPress, which we'll talk in a bit, I wanted something that I could control the grind a little more and get a little finer grind. And that's the sort of thing. But yeah, I've had one of these Krups grinders for ages, a decade maybe. I use it as a spice grinder, peppercorns, whatever, like the whole spices. Pro tip: don't use the spice grinder to grind your coffee too. Otherwise, you're gonna have some very strange coffee. Just a tip. And it's $20. I mean, you can't really go wrong with that. So a good grinder is a good start. You'll want to store your coffee too.
Well, one other thing before we move off the grinders too.
Yeah.
If you're getting an espresso machine, because we're going to talk about those in a little bit, you don't necessarily need a grinder as well, because most of the espresso machines come with a grinder built, or a burr grinder built into them. So you could probably cut a corner on this one if you're going to go ahead and go for the espresso machine anyway.
Yeah, the decent espresso machines are going to be expensive. So, but they'll have the burr grinders built in. So that's kind of where some of the expense is going. That's a good point. All right. So yeah, I was going to mention coffee storage, and I don't have any specific recommendations, but I'll have a link to an article that talks about what you need to know about the storage of coffee. Basically, there's 4 enemies, I guess, of coffee. There's light, heat, air, actually, and moisture. Yes,
and time.
That's another good point. Even the best storage is only for so long, and then the beans will start to go stale. So you want something that's airtight, preferably glass or ceramic, although stainless steel is okay. You want it to be opaque. In other words, you don't want the beans look beautiful, especially fresh beans with that glossy color, but you don't want to be able to see the beans, because if you can see the beans are dying. So you don't want to see the beans. Generally don't store it in your fridge or your freezer. People like to say, oh, you put it in there and it keeps it forever. No, it doesn't. Part of the problem is, especially if you store large amounts, every time you take it out, the cold beans hitting the warm air, condensation, moisture will form. That's bad. Although you can store, I've heard people say you could store beans in the freezer if you put them in small amounts, like a week's worth that you take out and you leave out, and store the rest in the freezer, I suppose that's okay.
Or if you get a super pack that has a vacuum seal and you need to put the other part of the super pack in your freezer for a little while, if it's vacuum sealed, it's going to be okay because it's not going to get that.
Yeah, there's no moisture can get to it. That's true. That's true. And so just, whole beans, grind them as you need them. Is probably the best thing to do.
I've been super happy with this container we have. It's called Airscape. It's by Planetary Design Company. It's a ceramic cylinder that has a vacuum seal lid that you put into it. And so it compresses down onto the beans really easily. And then there's a handle on it that you pull up. It releases the vacuum seal and you can pull it right out, get the beans you need, put it back in, press the air all back out. Really, really works great. And it just sits in our cabinet. It has a nice bamboo top on it as well that looks really good. We store it with our the scoop that we use to actually scoop the beans out in there as well on top. So it's great system. They come in all sorts of different sizes. So we'll have a link to that in there. I recommend it. We've been using it for years and it's been wonderful.
I know a lot of ones, and this might actually have the built-in the technology where beans outgas over time. They release carbon dioxide, and you don't want that to get stuck in there with the beans, and so they sometimes they'll bean storage containers, like specialized bean storage containers, will have one-way valves to let the pressure off. So I don't know if that one has it, but
I don't know if it does. But I open it every day, so it's like
yeah. Yeah,
I don't worry about it too much in that case.
Yeah. So that's storage. Then we talk about let's make some coffee. And there's basically you've got let's say 3 different kinds of coffee machines we're going to talk about. There's automatic coffee machines, manual coffee machines makers, and espresso machines. So we'll deal with those 3 separately. Let's start with the manual. It's a toss up which one's my favorite, but one that I've liked for a long time is AeroPress. And AeroPress is fun because it's got this whole, like I talked about the ritual of making coffee, and it's got this whole, like, you put the coffee in, then you put the water in, then you wait the water to sit, and then there's this plunger action. You put it, and it goes, and it makes up like a personal cup of coffee, and you just put it right on top of your mug, and you press the plunger, and it makes the coffee. And it's really compact. You could take it camping. I know, in fact, they have like camping setups, but you could take any of them camping, and it's just really a nice way of how do I say it? It's just a nice, easy way of making a decent cup of coffee. And to go along with it, though, so there's the AeroPress device, and like anything else, they started out just making the simple plunger device, and now there's a whole line of things that you can buy from them, of course, because every company has to make more and more products, and because the bottom line. But it's a simple AeroPress, it still works just fine like always. But the thing that you want to get with it is the AeroPress Timer app. I don't know if this is available for Android, but I know it is for iPhone. And what it does, the timer app has recipes, and what it does is, because it's how many beans you put in, how much time you let it steep, how long you take to plunge it, and then there's like different methods where you can have the reverse versus vertical. There's all these different things. You can look at the app to see how it works, but the app has all these different recipes for you to try, and it walks you through it so that it's all the timing. So, it says, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, stir, 10, 9, 8, you push, and that, all that sort of stuff. So it really walks you through making your coffee with the AeroPress. So I really kind of like that. That's been together. The AeroPress is a nice combination. The downside is, for me, the AeroPress, I like a big cup of coffee, and the AeroPress makes essentially a large, a double espresso. It basically makes like a double espresso's worth of coffee. So it's not quite enough for me. But did you guys use espresso AeroPress?
We have 5 coffee drinkers in our house, and at 5 a.m. when I'm making coffee,
that's exactly what I was going to go with.
I would probably wind up throwing it across the room if I had to stir it and wait and press it. So it's basically how quickly can I get the coffee into my system and start the day. So yeah, give me my Black & Decker 12-cup coffee maker. And if we need to make a second pot mid-morning, we'll do that.
Yeah.
Right.
If you're a person who's the only person in your house that drinks coffee and you really you want to make a ritual out of it, the AeroPress is 100% great for that. If you need a camping solution for making coffee while you're out at scout camp, AeroPress is great for that. If you need coffee on the go and you're just kind of a snob about it and you don't want to rely on where you end up and you want to carry your gear with you, AeroPress is great for that. If you have anyone else drinking coffee in your house, AeroPress is just kind of an annoyance.
Right.
And I have one. It sits in the back of my cabinet because of that reason right there.
Exactly. When I was the only coffee drinker in my house, my wife's a tea drinker. I'm a coffee drinker. When I was the only coffee drinker, it was great. But we have 5 coffee drinkers and 2 tea drinkers in my house. And so that's just not going to work to make it with an AeroPress. So yeah, you're right. And AeroPress really kind of came out of, it's most similar to an older method, the French press, which I had to give up. I realized because it messed with my stomach. I mean, whatever it is about the way the French press makes coffee, it puts too much acid, leaves too much acid in there, or like there's no filter, there's no paper filter. There's just a mesh, and I think that leaves too many of the oils in the coffee for me. I think it must be what it is. So and I think Victor, you said you didn't like French press either.
Yeah, I said it was more like French mess because after you brewed the coffee, you have all these nasty coffee grounds in the bottom that you have to somehow, get out, and you can't, flush them down the sink drain, right? So you have to try and scoop them out, and it's very messy. I'd say it's better for making tea if you're making a lot of tea or something, but
true.
But yeah, I don't like it. I've tried it for coffee, and it's not a satisfying experience for me.
Yeah.
I love my French press. I have a little one-off French press that I use on a pretty regular basis, actually, when I'm really being snobby about my coffee and don't want to use the stuff that everyone else is using, and I've bought myself a special reserve. I will run it through my French press, and to clean it out, I will actually just pour water back in the grounds and then go and dump them into a flower pot. That's my
coffee grounds are great for plants.
They're fantastic for plants.
Yeah, my sister-in-law used to work at Starbucks, and she'd bring home big bags of coffee grounds to put in our garden. Yeah, the nice thing with the AeroPress is when you're done, you unscrew the filter cap and just press all the way, and it just shoots into the trash. It's such a kind of fun. So French press is there. 2 out of 3 of us agree that it's not. We don't like it. Thomas, you're alone on that one.
Yeah, I know, and everybody that I've run into, they're like, "You use that thing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I love it. It's great."
I mean, it's great if it doesn't bother your stomach. I would probably be still using it too if it didn't bother my stomach. Okay, let's talk about the next one. This is the quintessential Italian, coffee pot. Every Italian household in Italy at home has one of these. It's a moka pot. And it's essentially a percolator. I remember as a kid, my parents had one of those big glass percolators. This is
a percolator.
It kind of works on a similar principle where it percolates up. The water is in a chamber at the bottom under pressure, and as it heats up, the water is forced up through a tube into an upper chamber where the grounds are, or it's forced through the grounds. I'm sorry, into an upper chamber that contains the brewed coffee. Whereas with a percolator, it's kind of just boiling the coffee before it spits it out, and it's really nasty. So a moka pot is infinitely better. If you're thinking it's a percolator, this is way better than percolated coffee. Yeah. Yes, there's a reason why nobody owns a percolator anymore. That's terrible coffee. But yeah, moka pots, they come in a bunch of different sizes, from very small single serve. I have a giant one that I used to take on camping trips. I have a better solution for me for that now, but it's not the same thing, but it's kind of like an espresso in that it's a pretty fine grind, brewed under pressure, and you just stick it on a heated surface like on your stovetop. You watch it per cup. You watch it fill up. Sorry, I don't want to confuse people. Yeah. You watch the upper chamber fill up with the coffee, and then once it starts spurting, it means all the water's out from the bottom. You take it off, you pour it out, and you're good. I love my mocha pots. I have a number of them, actually, like any good Italian should.
Yeah. And they're not too expensive. Like the difference between them and a percolator is really negligible for the quality of coffee that you get out of it.
Right. And mocha is the MOKA. That's sort of the what it's called. There are different brand names that sell it. And Bialetti is sort of the most famous Italian brand, but there are other brands out there of it. I follow this guy on YouTube who does camping. He's British, and he's got this little. It's not a Bialetti, but it's a little pot like that with a little spout on the end that he just puts over the fire and puts his cup underneath the spout and just fills it up with his coffee every morning when he's out camping. I'm like, he has to crank it down to keep the pressure on, to keep the lid pressurized. I totally want one of those where we found them, but I like the type of coffee that it makes. It's very Italian. It's very like an espresso. So I really enjoy that. And another manual method, there's a couple that are similar. There's the pour over coffee maker, which is basically you put a filter over a cup or over a small pot. You put the beans in there, and then I think it's mandatory you have a gooseneck kettle that you pour the coffee over it very slowly and let it, ideally.
And you have to have a spoon to do knockdown on it. It's a process. Okay. It's a process.
Folks, are you getting the idea about how much of a process you can make making coffee, how precious it can be?
I will say pour over is, if you have never had a pour over cup of coffee, go to a really good coffee shop and ask for a pour over cup. Mm-hmm. The difference is noticeable. Even if you are not a person who is particularly snooty about your coffee, you will notice the difference between a regular cup of coffee and a pour over cup of coffee. And the options to be able to do it at home, there's several of them that are out there. They are both beautiful and produce very tasty coffee. So I highly recommend that you look into them and learn the process, because it is worth doing, even though it takes time. And my wife complains at me when I'm like, it's a Saturday, we can do pour over coffee, and she's like, I don't even care, I just want coffee. But she always enjoys it. So
making coffee it's chemistry. I mean, you're undergoing an extraction process. You're extracting the compounds out of the coffee using water solution, as a solution, and so there's science involved in doing it right. You want just the right amount of certain compounds, and you want to leave other bitter, not tasty compounds there, and that sort of thing. And each of the different methods approaches this differently, has a different solution to that question. So that's one of the things involved here. We'll have a link to a couple different of the pour over coffee makers. They generally tend to be very simple and mostly inexpensive. It can get elaborate. You can add bits and pieces to it, but at its simplest, it's just a filter, holder that you put over a cup. That would be the simplest version of that. Another one that's sort of popular among coffee geeks is the Chemex, which is also a kind of pour over method, but Chemex refers to a very specific pot. It's like a glass carafe with sort of a wooden handle that's tied on it. Classically, a wooden handle bit that's tied on with a little leather strap, and then just in the top of this V-shaped carafe. I'm not very good at describing these things, so you have to go look for it yourself if you really want to know. You put a filter and you do the whole same pour over thing with it. It
looks like a piece of alchemical equipment. It's wonderful.
Yes,
I love mine. Mine is absolutely wonderful, and that's so. Chemex is probably my favorite way to do pour overs. Definitely recommend it if you haven't ever tried it. If you haven't seen it, go look it up, because it's really worth seeing. And it's one of those things you can leave out on your counter as a showpiece. Just make sure that you have it covered somehow so you don't get dust in it.
Right. And, you can, whereas most pour overs make 1 or 2 cups at a time, you can get a pretty big Chemex that can make you, 8 cups, of coffee at once. So it's another possibility.
Just realize you're going to be standing there pouring the water for a little bit.
Right. Exactly. All right. So those are the manual methods. But some days, as we said, some days, most days, you just want to get a cup of coffee to get your day started because you got to get in the car and get to work or whatever. You walk down the hall to your desk. That's usually the domain of automatic coffee makers. And you basically have like drip coffee makers or pod coffee makers. So we'll cover the pods in a second. Let's talk about drip. This is the classic, it's electric. You turn it on, water goes in the big reservoir on top. You get a basket and a carafe that sits on a hot plate. The gold standard that I've seen, every review I've ever seen where it talked about the best drip coffee maker is the Technivorm coffee brewer. They actually have several different ones, but this is like it's $340 for a drip coffee maker. One of the things I really like about it, though, is that it's got an insulated carafe instead of a glass carafe sitting on a hot plate. My biggest complaint about drip coffee is once you've brewed it, unless you drink it all very quickly, it's just cooking on that hot plate, and it's going to get bitter and gross fairly quickly. Whereas if you can get a coffee maker, it doesn't have to be a $340 one, but if you can get a coffee maker that goes into an insulated carafe, then it doesn't need to sit on a hot plate to stay warm. So that's a possibility to look for. Another one that's well reviewed is the Ninja. I've actually kind of become a fan of the Ninja brand products lately. It's kind of funny. I think I have the wrong link in our rundown. It's for the same thing again.
Their creamy is excellent. Their ice cream maker.
Just trying to convince my wife to get one.
It's worth it.
I was telling her that I could make gelato because, again, we just came back from Italy. I could make gelato with it. That's
read the ingredients on a pack of ice cream, and when you realize that you can leave it on the counter and it doesn't melt, that's when you start making your own out of organic cream and organic vanilla. And,
yeah, exactly. But the Ninja 12 cup is I found was well reviewed. My experience is mainly with the last drip one I had that was pretty good, was the Cuisinart DCC 1210 or something. It's like if you've seen it once, you've seen it a million times. But the Ninja is pretty cheap at what I say it as $90 for a pretty good coffee maker. You can get less expensive ones. Victor, do you have one that's less expensive?
My Black & Decker, either $30 or $40 if you want, depending on how many bright lights you want shining in your face first thing in the morning. But yeah, just make sure you can turn off the hot plate, and most have a power switch that turns off the hot plate as well when you flip it off. And and most of our coffee's gone before it gets cold anyway, so.
Right. If you're doing high capacity, that's the thing. One thing I look for with a coffee maker is the water reservoir easily accessible, especially given your kitchen situation. I have low cabinets, so anytime I have to if I have to pull it out from under the cabinet in order to access the water reservoir to fill it, that's going to be a pain in the neck. I'm going to hate having to do that every day. So you look at the design a little bit and picture it in your kitchen, and look at some of those features. Like a lot of times they'll have elaborate timers, and it'll start brewing before. How often are you going to remember to set that up before you go to bed? You're not going to do that. So.
But it will save you when you have a 5 a.m. got to get in the car and go somewhere, and you want to make sure you have coffee.
True. That is true. So that, and you can get some whiz bang features on coffee makers that add money to the cost of it. Now, sometimes just you and your spouse just want a cup of coffee right now. And this is my house. We have, I love coffee. So good coffee, bad coffee. So I have a Keurig with pods. I buy my pods at Costco. Do not buy the Kirkland brand pods. Just as a word of warning, I tried that. They clog the Keurig. I had brand new Keurig, and it was like, it wasn't working. I'm like, what is going on? It's defective. And it wasn't defective. It was the pods. So I get the, Keurig's brand, I forget what it is, the Vermont, or I forget what it is, something mountain, whatever it is, Green Mountain. Yeah. So I get those. All my kids drink coffee. It's good for the AD. The caffeine is good for the ADHD kids. So they all drink coffee. The brand I got is the one I got is really good. It's about $144. Has a super large reservoir, which is great. You can control the strength and the size of the brew, and it even has an iced coffee mode, which is nice because in the summer I fill a cup with ice, put it under there, hit the iced coffee, and it doesn't send as much water through because the ice is going to be in there. So it's a really nice feature. I really like that.
Just remember to empty the reservoir if you're not going to be using it, because the water, especially if you're using tap water, can, the mineral deposits can build up, and there's a sensor in the bottom that basically senses if it has water or not. And if that isn't allowed to kind of move freely, then it'll tell you it doesn't have water, or it'll tell you that there's problems and stuff. And
right.
So
keep it flowing.
Yep.
Yeah. Keep the water flowing. And, every once in a while you'll want to, I think we talked about this before, you'll want to, run some vinegar through it to descale it, and rinse it really well.
For everything that's anything that has a reservoir and some kind of percolation system like this, you're going to want to run vinegar through it. Yeah.
And in fact, that brings up a point. Don't believe people who say like the residue of coffee is like seasoning and adds flavor. No. It doesn't. It's gross. Clean your stuff. It's not seasoning.
If anything, it's worse.
Yes. Just
imagine what happens to your coffee when you leave it out for too long. And that's the same thing that's happening to those coffee grounds sitting around for too long.
Exactly. All right. So let's talk about espresso machines. This is the fancy end of things. You can buy a cheap espresso machine, but you can get what you pay for. You can get like a $20, $30, $40 espresso machine. But very cheap espresso machines make harsher, more bitter espresso because there's certain bits of espresso that have to do with pressure and pressure chambers and that sort of stuff, and reaching certain pressure levels, and you're just not going to get that with a cheap machine. So you can spend $500 for a good basic espresso machine. You can spend $1,000 for a highly rated machine. You can spend thousands of dollars. Man, I was drooling over some of those espresso machines I saw in some of those shops in Italy. You can also get a perfectly serviceable espresso machine for under $150. The best rated home espresso machine I saw was the Breville Barista Express Espresso Machine. That's a terrible name. Do not put Express and Espresso in the same title, please. But that's $680, which I think that's the one that has it also has a coffee. Does that? Yeah, it has a coffee grinder in it, so you could take $150 off that, I guess. You know what I mean? In your mind, it's like free money. No, it isn't. But the DeLonghi, I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's a DeLonghi Stilosa manual espresso machine for $150. It does the job. I read a bunch of the reviews, and they said if you follow the steps, you do the right things, you're going to get a perfectly good cup of coffee. It's not going to be the best espresso you ever had. It's not, but you're going to have a good cup of espresso, probably better than the one you get down at your local Starbucks anyway. I
was surprised this had the frother on it too. That's a cool, like, I'm glad that it has both of those. So
the steamer. Choice, yeah. That is really good. I did find when I was looking around, I did find this other portable espresso machine for I think like for camping or whatever, or for travel. And it's this all-in-one, very clever device. I don't know how good it is. It's really cool looking. It's this one tube, and you take it apart, and the different parts do. One part grinds the beans, and the other part brews the coffee, and and puts the pressure through it to the other part, which is the cup that you drink out of it. It's just this really interesting, clever coffee maker, espresso maker. I don't know how it says it works with ground coffee and coffee capsules that they sell. I don't know, how good it is, but I just thought it was fascinating. And I kind of want one to just try it out, but I'm not going to spend $150 on it. on a
try it
out. I get the DeLonghi and be a little happier. So
yeah.
I used to own an espresso machine ages ago when I was single and, had the time and inclination for making those coffee espresso. I'm getting to the stage in life where I think, again, I have the time and inclination to make espresso. Thomas, have you pulled the trigger on your espresso maker yet?
We haven't. We're looking at our Costco options currently, so we're. I think sticker shock set in once we're like, oh, we'll get an espresso machine, and then you get back and it's kind of like, whoa, that is definitely an investment.
Yes, yeah, that's the thing is you committing to it if you're getting an espresso machine. Yeah, you're really committing to the.
I keep telling my wife though we have so many coffee drinkers in the house, and we do have many coffee drinkers who are opinionated about their coffee, so. I feel like it would be worthwhile, and I know I'm not going to turn down an espresso.
I did mention before that I have a current solution for my camping coffee, and I discovered these Japanese pour over coffee packets, and what they're these individual servings. They come in this large vacuum sealed envelope, and you pull it out. It looks kind of like a tea bag. It's got these wings, and so what you do is you kind of pull the wings out, and they go over a cup, and then you tear the top off the tea bag portion. Now you've got this coffee filter, essentially a small coffee filter that you pour water over to brew a cup of coffee. It's not the greatest cup of coffee in the world, but it's so convenient when you're camping, especially for some reason. My boys, scout troop leaders, are not coffee drinkers. I'm like, what is wrong with you guys? Like, how could you not be? So I'm like the only coffee drinker on these trips with the kids. So I just boil some water and pour it over, and I've got my coffee. It's very convenient. You don't have to cart beans out into the woods and that sort of thing. So I really like that. Victor, you had something that you wanted to mention for emergency coffee use.
So to me, an emergency is, EMP weapon has gone off. There's not going to be any more coffee. How do you store up several months of coffee for an emergency in that situation? And you don't want to be chopping up your furniture to run your moka pot, right? To start a fire and right. Do that. So freeze-dried coffee has been around for a while, also known as instant coffee, which we abhor. But we do like this particular brand, which you can get on Amazon, Anthony's Organic Instant Coffee, and it is decent coffee that's been freeze dried and put into a vacuum sealed package, so it'll last for decades conceivably, especially if you store it in a good location in your 5-gallon buckets and stuff. So but it's really good if you wouldn't mind drinking instant coffee in a grid down type situation. It is leaps and bounds better than your Folgers crystals. So it's worth checking out. I would actually prefer this over like a Keurig cup of coffee. For some reason, the Keurig cup of coffee I don't know what they do in the processing of it. It just tastes a little weird to me. But at least with this, what you're going to get, and so maybe it's more of an expectation thing. But
It reminds me, like, my dad would drink Sanka instant coffee all the time. And our parents' generation, I think we were all around the same age. Our parents' generation drank terrible coffee, like
they did.
Percolators and Folgers instant coffee. And like, it was terrible coffee. I'm happy to live.
Yet they went to the moon.
Exactly. On terrible coffee.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to get away.
Yeah.
So here's the interesting thing. I think this is, my pick of the week is kind of related to this and talks about coffee and has given me a language around coffee that I think is really helpful. If you ever feel like your coffee tastes bitter, that is bad. That is bad coffee. That is not good coffee or tasty coffee. So Starbucks, I'm looking at you. The overly roasted beans that are dark and
burnt.
Awful and burnt. They're burnt, and it makes this bitter coffee. What your coffee should taste like, a good coffee should taste sour, and that is a different thing than a bitter coffee. And it makes a huge difference when you have that in your vocabulary to start tasting coffees, because then you go in and when you're tasting the coffee, you go, oh, that actually has some kind of flavor to it. And it can completely change the way that you're really interacting with it.
Right.
I get that coffee is a caffeine transmittal system. And there are times where I don't care what it tastes like. I just need the caffeine.
Yep. So, and sour is not necessarily a bad thing. Like lemonade is sour. Like it can be very tasty. It's a different flavor. I agree with that. Yeah. Your coffee should not taste burned or bitter. So we're running long. So I want to kind of quickly cover a few other things that you might want to think about. Frothers, if you want to frothing up those milk that you like, steamed milk. I actually like a
so
frother
more.
Well, I was gonna say I like a frother with hot cocoa to froth that up. What are other uses for the frother that you use?
So my pick is a Keurig. It's $30. It has a beefy rechargeable battery, which lasts a really long time. But I don't eat breakfast, so what I'll do is I'll put various types of supplements in my coffee. So like collagen. There's other superfood supplements that have things like rhodiola and stuff in it. If I'm feeling hungry that morning, I might put some coconut oil in it, which gives a nice layer of cream on the top. And this Keurig it comes with a little cup. You don't need to use it. I just do it right in the coffee mug, but it'll mix it up. And it's also good if you're mixing up like electrolyte drinks or sport drinks in a water bottle or a water glass. It makes short work of those as well. So,
or if you're of a certain age, fiber.
Yeah, exactly.
Which doesn't want to mix with the water. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely not a unitasker. It's the one thing that I think everybody in the house uses multiple times a day for sure. And like I said, we've had it for a few months and we haven't had to recharge the battery yet. So
that's awesome. I had a frother and it just started turning on by itself. I think it had some kind of fault in the button. It's like it was like a cheap Amazon no-name frother, and it's like, it would just like turn on in the middle of the night and stuff and froth itself off the counter.
Yeah,
scary.
What I don't like about this one is it has 3 speeds. So if you're mixing it on low speed, to turn it off, you have to either remember to take it out before you cycle through the other speeds. Otherwise, it'll go from low, which is nice. It's not going to overflow the cup, to high, and all of a sudden it goes whoosh out of the cup.
But always,
so you gotta
always turn your frother on while it's in the drink too, by the way. Don't turn it on and then put it in. It's going to make a mess. So a frother is great. It's a scale. If you're making espressos or AeroPress, you want a gram scale, something that can measure in grams. That's useful. I've been a previous pick of the week for me has been the Ember Smart Mug, which is it's a little bit overkill because it lets you set whatever temperature you want for your coffee and keeps it there. It's like, which is great, but there's one temperature. Like, you'd set it and forget it. I've never changed the temperature that the mug is. So all of the Bluetooth functionality, all that stuff is actually kind of a waste. If I could just if I get a mug and just set the temperature on it manually, it would be just as well for me. So, but I love the fact that I have a mug that keeps it warm without cooking it. One of those hot plates on your desk for your mug is basically just cooking it. This is a little different. If you're going to do pour over or anything like that, you're going to want a kettle. I love the Cuisinart 1.7 liter stainless steel cordless electric kettle. It is our family boils a lot of water. We make lots of tea, lots of coffee, we use it for all kinds of things. And we go through this all the time. We use like gallons of it a day. It's a workhorse. You can set the temperature that you want of water that you want to boil and that sort of thing. So it's really fantastic. The Cuisinart, and they make one that has a etching of a kraken on it for some reason that my wife wouldn't let me get because it was like an extra $40, but it's really cool looking. So
and you don't have to spend a lot of money on those either. $20 will get you a really good one. If you're making tea, that's also really good for just pouring over tea leaves and stuff. So
yeah. So anything else left to say about coffee tech?
Hey, I don't like coffee. I mean, it has caffeine and I don't like decaffeinated coffee. Isn't there a drink for me? Why, yes, there is. Wannabe coffee drinker. So there are coffee alternatives out there. One that we really like. So it's, 7:00 at night. You don't want to drink a cup of coffee, but you want to have a coffee type beverage. It's called Teeccino, Teeccino. And it's basically herbal coffee substitute. So most of it's, chicory based, which is not caffeinated, but then the flavorings are really good. They have different, roasts and different flavorings, and some of them even have, those that hot new thing, the adaptogenic mushrooms in it as well. So if you want your lion's mane and stuff in there to help you de-stress, check it out. It's really good if in the evening when you feel like you want a cup of coffee, but you don't want to drink decaf or stay up, until 4 a.m.
Nice. Very nice.
Mudwater's another good suggestion.
Yeah.
In that vein too, where it's mushroom coffee, and it's not bad. It's not coffee. So if you're a coffee drinker, don't go to it thinking, oh, it's going to be like coffee. It's not like coffee at all.
It's just not that. It's a hot drink that you can.
A hot drink. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. So that's our coffee tech. I'm sure there's lots of other coffee tech we could talk about. If folks have specific questions or recommendations, things we didn't talk about, we would love to hear from you. Let us know at technology@sqpn.com. We'll bring it up in a future episode. Before we move on, I want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the secrets of technology, including Renee C., Gyro C., Adam F., Kyle J., and Matthew B. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the secrets of technology and all the shows at StarQuest. Over 90% of our funding for the network comes from individual donors like you, so you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So, if you were not aware of the Jubilee year that's going on, there's been the Holy Year that the Pope declared last year, and this year, every 25 years is a Jubilee year. It's a biblical thing. I don't want to get too much into that, but there's themed weeks.
We forgive all of our debt, right?
Yeah, forget all of our debt is forgiven. Yes, and the prisoners are released. Tell that to all my the credit card companies. And so there's themes, and like this last week was the Jubilee of Youth. But before that, there was the Jubilee of Digital Missionaries, or some people like to call it influencers. And so the New York Times, like us, we're influencing people. The New York Times did an article on the influencer missionaries. We'll have a link to that in the show notes, where you can read that. What do you guys think of this? It's kind of interesting. Some people kind of bristle at the idea of influencers. I hate, honestly, I hate the idea that someone would call me an influencer, or something like that. It seems weird. But what do you think of this, the digital missionary movement, and what this article had to say about it?
We call them evangelists.
I know. It's the modern forum, right? That's the thing. It's kind of, I don't know. It kind of cheapens it to say that it's like it's something new. This is what Paul and Peter were doing when they were going out to people and talking, and they got arrested for it. They got they got thrown in jail for sure. They were making waves. They were influencing people in interesting ways where they were, and that was always my cry when I was out leading the charge in social media for the church, was the same thing, that this is where people are and we need to be there. So I like the concept. I think it's really cool. I think it's really neat that they're kind of talking about the methods by which they're being influencers. And if you're as steeped in some of this stuff as I am, you realize that the many myriad other sides, so all of the other things vying for your attention, are doing exactly this. And it's definitely a format and a form that we need to be very seriously embracing and making sure that we are having our voices heard as Catholics and just as a moral voice in the world.
Right.
Yeah, being wise as serpents, or whatever that goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's not new. I mean, the way the New York Times talks about it is as if this is new. Right. I mean, SQPN, we've been talking about this for, more than 15 years. We're going on 20 years now of being, missionaries in the digital continent. And Pope Benedict kind of made that idea of the digital continent, of this new frontier of evangelization. But you're right. Like this, it's not. It shouldn't be surprising, because we're just it's not like we're going to a special place. This is where we all are now, and this is where we're going to talk about it. This is, we'll talk about our faith, in the playgrounds and on the basketball court, and we'll talk about it, here, the other place where we hang out.
Yeah. And I think it's akin, like making a good video is akin to knowing how to dress, right? Like in the modern age, it's not like making good YouTube content is this mystical art. It's just you watch what other people are doing, you see how they're doing it, you make your own brand, you get in there, and it's very much like just watching fashion and making sure that you're keeping up. Like you don't. It's not like we're wearing albs from the Middle Ages still as
right.
Catholics. We dress like everybody else dresses. We go out and talk like everybody else talks. We watch the shows that everybody else watches. We can do the digital stuff too.
Well, just like if you watch any of the video podcasts that we do, you'll know that I have the de rigueur bookcase over my shoulder and purple lighting, accent lighting, because that's apparently required. I saw that in all the videos. So,
do you need a thumbnail for this episode?
And make a weird face. Oh, I really avoid doing that. That's the one I don't succumb to. It's interesting to see, that some of the folks that are there are not the people, like they're not among the group that I would have thought would be there. Most of the names that I saw bandied about who were showing up were, again, many of them are from non-English speaking countries, Brazil and Italy and that sort of stuff. So I would not necessarily know them, but even the Americans were kind of new to me, which is interesting. This Father Rafael Capo, a bodybuilding priest in Miami, which is funny. I wonder if he knows Bishop Barron, because apparently Bishop Barron pumps weight too.
Oh, I can see that.
So, very interesting. I just thought that was fascinating. Just say it here to the Vatican if you want anybody who's been doing this for a while to at the next meeting of the I'm happy to come over to. In fact, I think Michael Lofton was at this one. He's a American Catholic YouTuber. I think I saw he was there. So all right, so we'll have a link to that in the show notes. You can read that for yourself, and that means it's time for our picks of the week. And why don't we start with you, Victor? What's your pick this week?
Yeah, so our Switch 2 is in constant use, and there are two games I'm currently playing on it, and they're both excellent. One is not exactly appropriate for kids, so I won't mention that one, but I will mention the one that pretty much everybody in the house has played and loved, and that is the new Donkey Kong game, Donkey Kong Bonanza. It's like the word banana with Bonanza. So it's a lot of fun. And it is, I was unexpected how much fun it is to play. It's not very much fun to watch somebody else play it, but it is a lot of fun to play because it's pretty much, these open world levels, and then you can go anywhere and do anything you want by basically smashing the scenery, tearing chunks off of mountains and hitting enemies with it, or using them to launch yourself elsewhere. You can punch through mountains and countrysides, and it's just a lot of fun. If it's the ultimate, like, 8 or 10-year-old boy game, or for the 8 or 10-year-old boy inside of you. If you've ever just played a video game and said, like, why can't I just like punch my way through everything instead of having to actually like navigate? You can. It's a lot of fun. But with a lot of depth too. There are it's a really great game.
Cool. I'm not yet on the Switch 2, as we're still. Yeah. We're still Switch 1 folks, but not without all of us wanting, looking longingly at the new games. But that probably still in the future for us. But that's cool. I have a tech support issue that one of these days I'm gonna bring up, but which is that I can't. It's probably not a bad thing. I can't buy games on Nintendo. It won't let me buy things. I go to the website. And I go to the buying process, and it won't let me complete the transaction. I do it on the Switch. It won't let me, like, there's some sort of weird browser problem or something. I don't know, or maybe it's my Wi-Fi network. One of these days I'll figure it out, but it's probably for the best that I can't buy anything. So thank you, Victor, for that pick. Thomas, what's your pick this week?
So my pick this week is coffee related. I decided to stay inside of the terms here. And on YouTube, there is a fantastic YouTuber that is Coffee Guru. He's a British barista who has just some great insights about coffee making, about the coffee making process, about how to enjoy coffee, which is, I think, a really cool, like he does a lot of talking about what your level of interaction should be with coffee. So if you're interested in coffee or interested in taking it from the level of just caffeine, James Hoffman on YouTube, and we'll have a link to his YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. Great videos, just good explanation, really in depth. A lot of blind taste tests that he does, and blind taste tests on YouTube are always touchy because you're watching a person taste something, and that doesn't really convey much information at all unless they're good at actually explaining what's happening and what they're experiencing. Right. And he is really good at that. He really does convey to you what the difference between the different types of coffees that he's drinking is, and gives you a vocabulary that then you can go and engage with coffee and do the same kind of thing yourself.
And when he reviews coffees or methods or devices, he's very scientific. He's very meticulous. I really do enjoy his videos. He's got a review, a video from like 5 years ago where the best espresso machines under 100 pounds, which is probably a lot more than that now, probably 150 pounds. But that's
most
the sort of
25 to 50 pounds. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to.
Exactly. But then he'll do things like supermarket instant coffees. Does any of them taste good? That sort of thing. So he really covers the gamut in coffee stuff. So he's really great. I do enjoy his stuff. So my pick this week is something from my recent trip. I needed portable storage. We filmed a couple of episodes of Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World while we were there, and I needed to make sure that I got the files, very large video files, someplace safe in multiple safe places. I needed a large portable durable disk drive, and so as I often do when that sort of need comes up, I turn to SanDisk. They make some reliable, tough drives. And so the SanDisk 2 terabyte extreme portable SSD, it's USB-C connector, USB 3.2 Gen 2 speeds. Both of those are very good. It's a solid state drive, so you don't have to worry about any portable drive is a solid state drive nowadays. You're not going to get a spinny drive in this form factor. And for 2 terabytes, $160 for a rugged form factor is not bad. You can get cheaper drives, but they're less durable, shall we say? So
it's tiny. It's a reasonable size. Like
it's like
not a problem.
It's the footprint of a credit card, maybe a little larger than just a tiny bit larger than a credit card. I've got it here in my hand. I'm showing the guys, and it's even got a little loop. You can put it on a keychain if you so desire. It is very small, very portable. And they do come in sizes up to 8 terabytes. What is an 8 terabyte one?
Like $530 or so.
$530. Right on the money, Victor.
Someone call Bob Barker.
You're next on The Price is Right. Time for Showcase Showdown. But I recommend it. It's a good drive. It works well for what it does. And that's my pick. And that's our show for this week. We would love to hear what you thought of any part of our discussion. Do you have tea tech? Maybe we should do an episode of Tech for Tea. Someone else will have to do that one because I don't have any particular expertise, or maybe I'll just have to learn it. But in any case, we would love to hear from you. So you can contact us on the show at sqpn.com/technology or the StarQuest Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. Send an email to technology@sqpn.com. Visit the StarQuest Discord community at sqpn.com/Discord. You'll find links from our discussion and our picks of the week on our show notes at starquest.fm/TEC308. Be sure to write a review in Apple Podcasts or any place that lets you write reviews or give ratings for shows. That helps us a lot, as does sharing the podcast with your friends. That helps us grow this community and reach more listeners. And so until next time, when that next time comes, Victor, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of technology.
Perk you later, Dom.
And Thomas Sanjurjo, thank you as well.
Now I feel bad I don't have a coffee pun, but
I don't either now. I'm racking my brain quickly. I might revoke my dad card. And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Technology on StarQuest. Here's another show on the StarQuest Network you're sure to enjoy, The Secrets of Star Trek. Find it wherever fine podcasts are found or at sqpn.com/Star Trek.